The room had learned how to remember, not memories as humans kept them, fragile and unreliable, but the way stone remembers heat long after the fire dies. The Victorian chamber, dressed in dark wood and carved stone, held centuries of whispers inside its walls. The fireplace stood at the center like a mouth that had once screamed and never closed again. Above it, the clock had stopped at exactly 11:47, its hands frozen not in error but in obedience. Time had not broken here. It had been dismissed. 4 women occupied the room, arranged not by chance but by ritual. They did not sit as guests. They sat as fixtures, as permanent as the candelabras flanking the hearth. Their dresses were heavy, dark, cinched tight at the waist, sewn in an era when beauty demanded discomfort, and silence was considered virtue. Their skin was pale, untouched by sunlight, as though the house itself refused to allow warmth to reach them. Each woman looked toward the viewer with a gaze that felt deliberate, as if you had arrived late to something already decided. Eleanor Blackmoor stood slightly apart, her posture upright, her presence heavier than the others. Her dark hair was swept into a perfect Victorian arrangement, immaculate and severe. She had once been the mistress of the house when it still belonged to the living. Her eyes did not plead or threaten. They assessed. She had the calm of someone who had already crossed every moral boundary and found nothing waiting on the other side. Those who met her gaze often felt the sudden urge to confess sins they had never spoken aloud. Margaret sat close to the table, her long braid resting over one shoulder like a noose made of hair. Her fingers lingered near the glass decanters placed carefully before her, crystal vessels filled with liquids darker than wine. Margaret had been a healer once, long before the word poison replaced the word medicine. She understood mixtures, reactions, how the human body betrayed itself when introduced to certain truths. Her silence was not shyness, it was calculation. Clara leaned slightly forward, her face soft, almost tender. She was the most dangerous because she appeared harmless. Men trusted her without realizing they were doing so. Her eyes shimmered with practiced vulnerability, a reflection perfected through years of observing desire. Clara did not kill with force. She killed with permission. Her victims always believed they had chosen their fate. Rose, the youngest, sat quietly at the edge, curls framing a face too innocent for the horrors it had witnessed. Around her neck hung a small locket, old and worn, containing a portrait no one else was allowed to see. She touched it often, as if reassuring herself that memory still existed. Rose did not speak much, but when she did, the room listened, the house listened, the dead listened. The women did not meet here for pleasure. They met because the night demanded it, the house demanded it. This place, once a lavish estate, had been built on accusation and fire. Long ago, when men feared what they could not control, they called these women temptresses, witches, corrupters of virtue. They were tried without evidence, condemned without mercy, and burned with prayers that sounded suspiciously like screams. The flames had consumed flesh, but something else had survived, something patient. Now the house opened its doors again, but only to those who deserved to enter. Men arrived with arrogance in their step and secrets rotting in their chests. They came seeking comfort, power, indulgence. They believed the stories painted on the walls were decorative. They believed the women were lonely. They never noticed the clock. Dinner was always polite. Candlelight softened everything, even guilt. Laughter came easily at first. Wine was poured from Margaret's decanter, thick and fragrant, tasting of sweetness and something metallic. The men drank. They always drank. Soon their confidence loosened, their voices thickened, and truths began to slip free. Confessions poured out, unprompted betrayals, cruelty, crimes committed behind closed doors. The room absorbed every word. When the fire shifted from orange to blue, Eleanor would rise. That was the signal. Clara would move closer, her hand brushing a sleeve, her eyes holding theirs just long enough to make escape feel rude. Rose would hum softly, a melody once used to calm children, now repurposed to lull grown men into surrender. The end was never violent. That was the cruelty of it. The men died believing they were understood. By morning, there would be no bodies. The house did not waste. It consumed what it was given, breaking bone into silence, memory into dust. The clock remained still. Time had no jurisdiction here. Villagers spoke of the estate in hushed tones. Some claimed to see figures in the windows at night, 4 silhouettes, unmoving, watching. Others heard singing carried by the wind, sweet and mournful, as if the past itself was grow.